Okay, now notice that the telescope has this screw right here. It's a fairly large screw, it's a machine screw, and it's in here not all the way. And what I'm going to do is I got 2 more of those in here with a big Allen wrench. And if you've done this many times, you can do this by yourself. This is probably the hardest part of setting up the telescope, is getting this thing in there. You definitely don't want to drop this, okay? It'll be really embarrassing if I drop it now. But you basically, there's this slot right here, and we're going to hang this nut, this screw, on the slot, and then you'll see there are 2 other screw holes here and here. Here and here. I've got to feed 2 other screws in here and here and tighten it down. But you got to align the screw holes right. Okay? So this one we keep in just so we can kind of hang it in the slot. I have to back it out just a little bit because it's screwed in too far. Okay, so now it's kind of hanging there. I don't want to let go of it, because if for whatever reason it falls out, like I don't want to lose the scope. Okay, so you want to keep one hand on the nice big handle right here, and then you kind of have to get the screws into these holes. And this is hard because you definitely don't want to strip the screws or strip the threads. If you do that, you're in trouble. So you have to kind of wiggle it a little bit and get those screws going into the thread holes in the back. And you don't want to tighten them all the way down. Whenever you're putting screws in, you don't tighten them all down until they're all in partially, okay? So I just have 3 screws. I got one of them in. Well, the top one is in, and now sometimes it helps to kind of wiggle it a little bit while you're trying to find the hole. Definitely don't want to force it. There we go. So if it's really hard to get the screw in, just don't force it, okay? All right, so I have them all in kind of finger tight. And now I'm going to go ahead and take the Allen wrench and go around in a circle and give each of them maybe 1 turn so they're being tightened uniformly around. All right, good? Okay, like I said, that's probably the hardest part of setting up the telescope. All right, now, there are a couple of locks here. I'm gonna go ahead and unlock this, and that's gonna allow me to rotate it around like this. And then I'm gonna lock this down. Okay, this is kind of it's a compression clamp right here, okay? And these cords are gonna be for controlling it. There's another clamp that is right here that's going to allow it to rotate around this way. Okay, so I'm actually going to rotate it a bit because there are these screws on top. Let me show you these. There's these screws right here on the top. Okay, those screws, and so there's some that look like they're on the bottom. They are on the bottom, but they're not the ones I'm talking about. There's ones that are kind of partially out on top. And I want those on top because I'm going to mount the finder scope to that. That's what this is. So it's kind of like, if you think about this like a rifle or something, like it's like a gun. And when you want to sight your gun, like I'm not a hunter, but I've done this before. So what you do is you have to have a scope on the top of your gun, and the axis of the scope has to be lined up with the axis of the rifle, so that what you're targeting here, you're actually going to shoot with your bullet, right? This is like the scope, and you want this lined up so that it's aiming in the same way as the telescope, okay? And this is a broader field of view, so when you look through this, you're going to you want to find a star over here, you first use this one to kind of find it roughly, you aim it at it, and then you go over to this, and then you can kind of make fine adjustments and look at it more closely. Okay, so this is called the finder scope. And it's got a bracket here, and this is the scope, and it's got like a rubber O-ring. You'll kind of feed it in like this, and that rubber O-ring kind of sits in one of these slots, and then there's 3 screws right here that you're gonna have to set just right to kind of align it, okay? I'm gonna take this out for now because I wanna put this bracket on, okay? And there is a screwdriver here. It's a screwdriver with all different heads. This is a Phillips head. There's all kinds of other heads, pan heads and whatnot.